And now I wonder, why won't you?
Hey friends, welcome to 2025. I took a little bit of a break and I found it challenging. I missed this. I wanted to get back to it, and I don't know if next Christmas I will take quite as long of a break. So all I could think about was like the next things I wanted to make and post and share with you guys. So I have quite a nice list. We have a lot of fun things coming down the pike. We never decided pipe or pike. I think it would be both. I think that all the comments said it can be both. Anyway, I have a good list of things to make in the next couple of months and to share with you. We have a podcast coming, a monthly podcast, so stay tuned for more details about that. I'm really excited about it. And some different kind of sewing I've been working on, but also some quilt finishes and some quilt plans. And so the very first thing I'm going to finish in 2025 is this kind of funny mini quilt of Darcy and Lizzie. You might remember that I posted a few months ago a list of quilts that I was wanting to make, like quilts on my wish list. Honestly, did not know how many I will actually make, but it turns out making that list was really helpful because I had a plan already. So if I was done with one project, or I just needed a small project to work on, I already had a list of things I know I already want to make, instead of like wandering in here and just starting something willy-nilly, which I am definitely prone to do. So today what I'm going to do is finish this. I'm going to link you to this pattern. It is by Fancy Lad. I think that's right. I'll link to her on Instagram. She makes a lot of different characters in patterns, like all kinds of characters. They're really fun. It's much bigger than I thought it was when I bought it. But I think it's really cute, and I didn't want to make a whole quilt because this took a long time. I would call this intermediate to advanced piecing. It's not paper pieced, you have to cut all the little pieces. So I only wanted to make these two people and hang them somewhere if I can find a spot in here. But I thought I would give you a tutorial on how I hang mini quilts. You can see the ones hung back here. I'm going to show you how I do that. It's the easiest way. Doesn't even necessarily require any hand sewing. So that's what I'm going to finish today, and then I'm going to kind of tell you some of my quilting plans that are upcoming. And shockingly, they're all on that list that I made before. So first though, let's hop to this tutorial. I'm Nikki, this is Pin Cut Sew. So glad you're here. So glad that we're in a new year. I love the new year, it's fun. And yeah, let's get started with the tutorial part. Okay, sorry to my editor Layla, I forgot to put my microphone on for that intro, and the heater was running, so my sincerest apologies. Oh, and then I put the microphone on and it's unplugged. Hold please. There, that's better. Here is a previous mini quilt. What is up with the light? Okay, here's a previous mini quilt I made, and if I flip this over, you can see I have a simple wooden dowel in these little corner pockets that I put right into the binding. So I sewed these on before I put the binding on. This mini quilt that I'm about to make is a teeny bit wider, and the wider the quilt, the more likely it is that it might like sag or something. So on this one, I'm going to add a tab here for the pocket also. And if you're hanging a really large quilt, well, actually, if I were hanging a large quilt, I would do a different rod pocket, like the whole kind. But anyway, so we're gonna do mini quilts today. This is how I put little corner pockets on mini quilts. So let me get this all trimmed up and ready. Okay, he's all trimmed up. Look at this cute. This is called the Emma. The line of fabric is called Emma. But look at the little Regency characters. I found this at my quilt shop. So perfect. And then I thought about putting a border on this, but it's already so big and I already might not have a place to hang it. So I didn't want to make it any bigger. So I'm not going to. Just so that a different binding doesn't look weird cut into his hair and arm, I'm just going to bind it with this same linen as my background. Okay, so I'm going to use scraps that match my binding. I mean, they don't have to, they could be anything. Okay, so what I am going to do is use my backing fabric, and I'm gonna cut out two squares, two simple squares. Oh, here's a little piece right here. I'm gonna make them 2 3/4 inch squares. The number isn't exactly important. They need to be somewhere between 2 and 3. I'm gonna do 2 3/4. Then I'm going to turn over my piece, make sure I have the top. I'm going to press these in half diagonally, and I'm going to baste these in place at the top corners. Probably attach my walking foot since I like to put binding on with my walking foot anyway. I'm not going to do a binding tutorial here, but I have some very thorough binding tutorials on my channel already, which I will link to in the description. Okay, so I'm gonna go baste these in place. Okay, I like to stitch these on inside of the 1/4 inch seam allowance so that later the stitching does not show, especially on the front. Okay, so then, like I said, in the middle, I don't want it to get droopy because it's a little bit bigger, and if I put a dowel in here, it might, see? And so I want to tack this against here. So what I'm going to do is go find some kind of sturdy ribbon that matches. This is not ideal, it's yellow, but you know what? It's just on the back, it's probably fine. Okay, so what you want is grosgrain ribbon or something else that's sturdy. Twill tape maybe even. Let's see, if I cut this much, put it on like so. Okay, so you're going to need, oh my gosh, Natalie is singing. Cut 3 inches, but I'm going to let it overhang at the top here. Need to find the middle. My family just got home. If you can't hear that. Okay, so I'm gonna stitch this here. You can of course cut a strip of fabric and sew it into a tube and do the same thing, but this is just easier, right? So I'm gonna go stitch this on and then I'll trim it.
Hey!
Hi! Okay, I had to break for lunch. Okay, so I'm all prepped. I have a ribbon here. Let's see, just to tell you, this is hanging down 1.25 inches from the raw edge. So 2.5 inch length of ribbon if it's flush. And then I have my squares attached. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and bind my mini quilt, and that is all there is to it. And then I already bought a dowel, and you can have someone cut it for you, or you can get your tools if you have someone cut it, or you can just go to town with anything that might chop it, and this might be the result. Isn't that pretty? Okay, let me get to binding and then I'll show you how it turns out.
Yesterday I lost a battle, trying at all costs, so to keep you, babe. Oh, to keep you, babe. Now I hurt so bad. All I feel is sad that I lost you, babe. Oh, I lost you, babe. Say goodbye.
Okay, my binding is attached and I am hand finishing my binding. So I'm going to fold it over to the back and hand stitch it. So this is the part, if you chose to do a machine stitched binding and you're gonna machine do this, you're still gonna need to go back and hand whip stitch the bottom of this tab so that it is tacked down, because otherwise it's just gonna pull itself up. But if you're hand binding like me, you can just come along here, slip stitch this, and then keep going. So I'm gonna show you just that part. And then I will finish this off camera and come back and show you. Okay, so this is a little trick I learned when I entered that quilt into the fair, and they had a tutorial for making like a rod pocket, but it was like a tented rod pocket, because if you lay this totally flat like this, then it might bulge out in the front. So if you make sort of a bubble and create more of a tent for your rod, then it lays totally flat against the back. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to pin it in place. And then I'll just start up here, hand sewing my binding, so you can see just this part and how I will do it. The rest of this, it just gets finished as normal, and then these pockets are already made. Let me just start here and make my way over there. Okay, so I'm going to stitch across the ribbon like I normally would stitch my binding on. Now, stabbed myself. And then when I'm at the other side of it, oh, I have a knot. Boo. Okay, I'm going to carry my thread by putting it in between the layers and coming back out where the corner of my ribbon is. So my thread is through the layers of the quilt, not showing on the other side. And then I'm just gonna whip stitch across this way. And then I will go back up through the layers up to where I left off up here. So now my ribbon is nice and secure. And once I'm done with my binding, I have a longer dowel I'm gonna use, but then my piece will sit perfect, my rod will fit perfectly inside my pockets and the ribbon. So I am going to finish this, but first, let's talk about my quilting plans for the next few months. Okay, so this will be my first quilt that I finished this year, and I'm very, very proud that it was one of the ones I said I wanted to make, and I got started on it like right away. I think the day I made that video, I bought that pattern. So the other one is, of course, the Fish and Forest quilt that I've been working on for quite some time. You probably can't tell, but there is a whole other row of trees on the top, and this will be finished in a video that's upcoming in a couple of months. And so that'll be my next finish. I'm very excited to finish that one. I have a fun free motion quilting idea that I'll show you in that upcoming video. I have one more row of trees to make and then some sky, wavy sky blocks. Along with that will be the release of my newest little booklet called Curvy Improv. So look forward to that because it's really fun. And I will for sure announce that when it's ready, which will be in January. And so then after that, I have started collecting fabrics to make my daughter Natalie a quilt for her 20th birthday. She's the one who dances ballet, and she has a color palette preference that is like very muted blues, browns, and creams. Kind of like cottagecore, but not like froofy cottagecore. So I would say this fabric sort of really sums up her, can you see this? Sums up her aesthetic. And then I have some other creams and browns and some blues. And I'm going to make her that bow quilt. I think it's called, I have it written down, let me check. It's called Top Knot, the Top Knot quilt, and I will put you a link to this pattern. I ordered the pattern in the mail. I actually thought it was PDF, and then anyway, sometimes I'm just too fast to click buy and I don't actually read what I'm buying. So waiting for that to come in the mail. The quilt pattern is for a throw size, and she wants it to fit across her bed, like at the end of her bed, which is full size. So I'm gonna have to alter and adjust that to work. And of course, I can't just make anything ever that's just like straight pattern. I have some ideas to like make it, I don't want to say more interesting because it is a really interesting pattern, but I'm gonna have to alter because I'm using kind of a limited color palette. I think I need to either, well, I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna work out those details, and that will be, I think, the third quilt that I make after I finish the Fish and Forest. And while I'm doing that, I will probably also continue working on something that I said I was gonna start, which was a 12 Days of Christmas quilt. And this one would be a very improv, kind of like this one and the house quilt that I made last year, because it really has to come together like one layer at a time. And I think instead of doing a medallion quilt that starts in the middle and goes out for each like day of Christmas, I think I'm going to start the partridge in a pear tree in the top corner and then move out in like half borders, I guess, in L shapes for all the days of Christmas. So that though, I'm going to have to think through one day of Christmas at a time. But I did make a partridge, and so I'll include a tutorial for this little curvy birdie. That's cute, curvy birdie. And he has like a floppy beak, which was inspired by the prosperity hens. So that will be something very interesting. It probably will take me the whole year because quilts like that just take a lot of thinking. And sometimes I can't come up with the next problem solving step. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh, I figured it out. So that will be kind of a long-term ongoing project, but I hope to finish it by Christmas. And then, last for now, I had asked for one of the other quilts on my wish list was the Tall Tales quilt. Can get this at Quilt with Kate, and it's the books. So she sells these templates, and I asked for this for Christmas because you can fussy cut the little book covers. So if I wanted this yogurt in a book cover, I could fussy cut with this acrylic template, and it's specially made for this quilt pattern. So I will buy the Tall Tales quilt pattern, and I'm really excited to make the books and the spines and pick fun background colors or somehow make it mine, you know. And then also my husband, I think I had mentioned Charlie Harper fabrics when I was talking about the other quilt on my wish list, the Polaroid quilt. And I had seen somebody make a Polaroid quilt with only Charlie Harper fabrics. If you're unfamiliar with Charlie Harper, he's an artist. I bet you've seen his work. It's a very distinct style. My husband for Christmas got me on Etsy a set of Charlie Harper fat quarters. So I'm very excited about this. I don't know that I'll do the, what's it called? Polaroid quilt. But these definitely deserve like something special. I don't usually use like one line of fabric in any quilt. My mind can't handle the synchronicity. And so, but I think these are a little bit different. So I don't know that that's the direction I'll go with these, but I do love that quilt and I think it would be fun. So I think I'm gonna sit on this for a while until I decide or until I see something that strikes my fancy. But for now, I think maybe the Polaroid. Although if I do that, I'm gonna have a lot left over. I'd be able to do even more. So I don't know. Anyway, all this to say, those are my quilt plans for the coming months. That's a lot for 1 year. So I don't even know if I'll do any other quilts. I think that the 12 days one will be the one that scratches the puzzle solving improv quilt itch for me as the year goes on. And these other ones, because it's been a long time since I've made a quilt with an actual pattern, I think they will be kind of fast, especially the top knot one that I'm gonna make for my daughter. So these are my exciting quilt plans. I'm gonna go probably watch Wicked and sew the binding on this wall hanging, and then I will come back and show you when it's done. Oh, if you have quilt plans, or if you have quilts on your to make list for this year, please tell me what they are, because I always love to see what other people are working on and what inspires you. So make sure and chime in the comments what your 2025 sewing and quilting plans are, and I can't wait to read them.
And now I wonder, why won't you come back? Love me, hold me, need me, like the way you used to do, when it was just me and you. Don't go, I need you, I'll never mislead you. Give this love another chance.
Let's see, how big are these? That's what I thought. 4-inch squares. Wait, are those too big? Yeah, those are huge. What am I doing? Okay, scratch everything I just said. We're gonna make 2.5-inch squares. You know me and the math. Let's try 3 first. I think I'm gonna do 2 3/4. 2 3/4-inch squares. Wait, no, I would want to make them this fabric. Okay, sorry, Layla. Let me just start over.